All right. Hello, welcome back to this fourth devlog on Trapped on the Flip Side. My name is Tim. I'm the lead. I'm the lead on this game, and let's go through what we've been working on these past few weeks. Little disclaimer: there might not be too much because a lot of stuff has happened that has prevented me from making much progress on the game, both personal and some behind the scenes stuff along with the team. So keep that in mind for today's dev stream. But with that being said, let's get right into the list of additions, improvements, changes, all that good stuff. Starting, if I pull it up over here. So, as you might have remembered in our previous devlog, there were a couple of bugs and unintentional things that were happening in the game. Those have now been fixed, mostly, if not all, hopefully. So bugs like the the camera issues when you're using the shrink ability, the infinite score, the blast display, so the kind of like growing blast translucent sphere, and a couple other things, including the switching. Here, actually, let's jump in here and kind of show you guys. So essentially, another one that was fixed is when you switch colors like this to this, sometimes if you would jump in and immediately jump out before the color has a chance to kind of like fill you up a tiny bit, it would bug out and keep the previous color's equipment. So that has been fixed. Let's go down the list. A little bit of a narrative rework in the documents has been made, so now we have a bit more fleshed out story for all three characters and the progression through the game. There have been additional hazards that have been added. So you can see here we have a laser beam that is both as a standalone projectile that can be added to any attack or any enemy, as well as this, which is a more one point to the other hazard that can be placed in the world with a timer, all that good stuff. We've also added another hazard, which is this kind of fog, poisonous, charged smoke that, of course, if you, whoa, we're having a little bit of a lag spike. There we go, seems to be a bit better, maybe not. Anyways, so as I get in, I am damaged over time, and of course, it stops as you get out. And same with the laser, it stops right where you are. The kind of like little laser splash effect is needs to be added, but essentially the functionality works. Um, Going down the list without showing too much, or we're gonna get down to them. We have a bit of preparation for the boss segment, so the final boss and the songs that are all rhythm-based attacks, all that good stuff. The very early stages of that have been kind of planned out and put into effect. So I'll show a bit of that afterwards. As you can tell, the materials have changed a bit everywhere. So we now have a master material, which we could have emissive materials, metallic materials, translucent, transparent, all that good stuff with mixes in between for, I would hope, helps with performance. I've also added the transition chambers between areas in the levels. So we're going to see that in the first level that we've been working on, as well as some more of the level design. So I've changed up a tiny bit of the level design to make it just a bit better. I've improved the camera interaction with connectors. So now, as you can see, I have a test connector here. The camera will still connect, what's the word? Collide with it. However, if I'm close enough or inside of the connector, the camera now goes through, kind of avoiding the jittering of the camera. So if I jump out here, you can see now the camera does not jitter no matter where it is because compared to previously where it was jittering when you were um, having the camera close in like this in a connector, as well as the ball now stops moving around without rolling around. So that's kind of a collision uh, improvement or a collision change. And it continues with the ball physics as soon as you're out. And I believe that might be everything down the list of changes and improvements and additions that we have for the game. So let's go down them individually and see what they're all about. So I think I'll skip the self-explanatory ones and go straight to the more interesting ones. So I showed a bit more of the laser previously over here, and essentially I'll show it again. It's what you would expect. Let's go back, where the laser fires from one point to the other. I have it set as a environmental hazard that can be on a timer, and it can be also attached to, let's say, turrets or enemies as a standalone laser that will act the same way as here. So if it hits the player, it will continuously do damage and stop the laser on impact. It also impacts with the world, so you could use walls and shields, and actually let's get the shield ability to demonstrate this to kind of protect yourself from the damaging of the laser. Oh, there we go. Let's go get ourselves this over here. So essentially, you would use the shield, and immediately you can see right there, it blocks the laser, and I'm no longer being hit by it. So that'll add a lot of variety in the gameplay of the level design when we get to designing more of the game itself and the areas and the environments. So that'll be interesting to go with, as well as the damage amount per tick is fully customizable. So if we want to have a impassable barrier, we could just have it insta-kill the player and require the shield to bypass. Now, going along with the same vein, we have these kind of clouds of deadly smoke or fog that I've created. Originally, these were designed to be more of a kind of force field, electric gate kind of barrier of energy. However, the way to do the material for it was not meeting all the requirements. So essentially, I wanted it to still look like you were in the, or at least the camera was in the electric charge or the energy charge if you're in the zone of influence. And with a normal surface material like, with a normal surface material like the ones on here or on pretty much everything, as soon as you go have the camera go in it, which we can't because everything has collision, it would just look weird. Basically, actually, the best way I could show it is if we go into the player itself, it would look like this. So imagine this being how it looks like inside the energy field. It doesn't exactly look like you're inside an energy field, so we went for this this fog, smoke kind of effect where it does look as you're inside the field or inside the volume, it does look like you're inside. So it kind of meets the criteria, and I would say that it's a little bit of an Easter egg to a previous game that I've made with a couple of people. So if you find which game this is kind of an Easter egg to, props to you. Moving down the list, we have the laser, the fog, material, that's fine. Yes, let's show some of the level design that that we've been working on. So if we go back to our neutral area right here, and I'll set this as our default spawn. Little handy system, so if we ever want to play the game from any of the checkpoints. So now, minor change here is I changed the camera placement to over here to kind of show the doors a bit better than previously. and I changed the area behind over here to something a little bit better. So I'll open this up and I'll show you guys. So once again, going through this little puzzle, and as we're going here, actually I don't necessarily need that one. As we're going here, I do want to say that the game, or this part, at least this little prototype, has been playtested a couple times, and it is approved by players that aren't necessarily too accustomed to playing games like this. So that means the direction in terms of the game design, the UX, and all that good stuff is in a right direction, and we're making sure that the whole game ends up playable and fun for everyone. So before we go in here, which is the interesting part, I just want to show this here. So we change this up to more ramps and the little barrier that you could use to jump up here. It's a bit more intuitive to move around other than that kind of staircase that was in the corner over here beforehand. But as we go over here, we now have the chamber actually fully functional. So we go in here, it pops you out, and essentially, depending on the size of the level and how long it would load, you'd be stuck in here until that finishes. But you're not stuck in the little connector. So this little area could be a good opportunity for like a little mini game or a little parkour thing to pass the time. And every time that you exit and come back into the connector, it switches from one door to the other. And if I am able to get out, it's doing something weird again. Okay. Yes, we can't have any of these devlogs without a bug. I'm not sure why it's doing that. Okay, let's get back over there. But essentially, that gives you guys the idea. Here, let's arrange this better. There we go. I might be able to skip this part later on, but for now, let's go back to that connector. Oop. And there isn't much in the other level, so I haven't started working on the next segment. However, I do want to show that you can exit the connector just like that, and you're popped out. And while this is waiting to open, you can go around. And another fix that, or another thing that's that we need to keep in mind is there is always going to be a kind of respawn chamber here, because a fun little bug that happened during the playtest is this was not here. The previous spawn point was still active while you were in this level. So when the player was killed by something, let's say this fog, you would spawn in the previous level. So, and obviously that area would be unloaded. So that is very, very much not supposed to happen. Once again, haven't made any progress in this area, but we'll have a chance to work on that down the line. Now let's get our player down, and there we go. So now you spawn right back here, and you can go back to the previous level as you please. So that is about it for the level design. Let's see if there's anything else. Connector. Yeah. All right. I think that was about it for this dev stream. Once again, it's not too much, and there's not very much in terms of fully polished elements as of yet. However, down the line, and as free time, or as we get free time to work on the project, more progress will be made. Oh, actually, no, there is one more thing. So before we finish off, there is one more thing. Let's look at the very early kind of boss level right here. Do we need to save? No, we don't. All right. So I don't have anything planned or put into place in terms of the functionality as of yet. However, this is kind of the gist of it. So you'd have these long pathways from start to finish. So you start with a respawn chamber here. Let's say you have a safe barrier here, and then from this point onwards all the way to the end here, there would be a massive boss or mechanism or something along those lines that will attack you as you make your way forward. And as when you make your way to this place, to this spot and fall down, then it would kind of reset, either spawning you back to another one for the sequence to kind of start again with a different sequence of attacks. And essentially you would have to get through all of the different sequences to essentially beat the boss or beat the bosses. And as we have it now, once again, these attacks will all be rhythm based, so with music and flashy lights, and think like massive rave visuals that you would see at a rave. And essentially, let's see if I have it here. There we go. You can see the print string in the top left corner of the viewport. That that is essentially the rhythm-based attacks firing on the beat that they're supposed to. So essentially, if I go out here and I open up the blueprint for this attack, you'll see that these two timelines, which are essentially just sequences, think like when you're editing a video or doing an animation, you have keyframes. Essentially, I could set the keyframes to the beat of the song for when I want the attacks to fire. I have multiple different lines of attacks or lines of events that can fire at the same time, which is why I have, let's say this is the first attack, this is the second attack, and you see them firing when alternatively with the red and the blue text. So that's what you see in the top corner over here. And you can imagine those events, instead of just firing the hellos in the corner, they're firing like lasers and walls and platforms and all sorts of things that you have to avoid and try to maneuver as you make your way to the end of this long pathway. And essentially, that'll be the essence of each one of the bosses, using the songs from our contributing producers, so Humanchen and Playnoise, and essentially down the line, this will be the final boss of the game. So, with that being said, I believe that's all I wanted to go over in this devlog. A lot of exciting things are to come in the next few months. In about a month or so, we're going to start officially working with the rest of the team, so pumping in on the artwork, pumping in on the concepts, on this, maybe more on the narrative, maybe more on some visual stuff to show you guys, really giving life to this environment and to the story. But for now, we're still working on the functionality, making sure that everything works well and feels good in terms of the gameplay, because at the end of the day, that's the core essence of the game. With that being said, I've been Tim. Thanks for watching. Don't be shy to subscribe, like, all that good stuff, and check out our games on the Time Moth Games itch page. All the previous games are there, free to play, so go check them out. And with that, I wish you guys a good day. See you guys next time, hopefully next week for the next dev stream, as well as maybe some production streams as I have the time to do them. So yeah, see you guys next time. Bye-bye.